Nobody tells you this when you start making films, but beneath the creativity and the excitement, the industry is a minefield. You walk in thinking vision and collaboration and passion will carry you. And you step onto an indie set and you realize you're surrounded by people who challenge you, argue with you, test you, sabotage you, overpromise, extort you, or shut you down for something as little as lettuce touching their food. Here are the 5 brutal truths no one tells you about producing a film, told through real stories, real disasters, and real lessons learned the hard way. Welcome to Indie Film Ins and Outs, where we teach filmmakers the business side of filmmaking so they can learn how to make profitable films and build a career in filmmaking. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. Let's start with number 1. Everybody thinks they know more than you, especially on indie sets. On a union set, people stay in their lane. They know their job and they just do it. But on an indie set, everybody on an indie set is an aspiring producer, director, writer, or creative genius. People love pointing out your mistakes. They love telling you what you did wrong or how they would have done it. And they just like arguing for the sake of arguing, even if they've never made a film themselves. They know better. You get crew members challenging every decision, some trying to sabotage you or they cause chaos. Everybody is trying really hard to get the job, so they tell you how amazing they are, what a team player they are, how they work 16-hour days and it's no problem. And then you get them on set and they're upset because you went over 15 minutes to their break. And sometimes you have to cut people fast. If you got a sound guy that constantly challenges you and isn't doing what you need him to, and if you've got a camera operator who thinks he knows better, if he's not doing his job, Marc, who is my co-founder at Indie Film Ins and Outs, he told me recently that over his 20-year career, he's never had a film where he has not had to fire someone. Isn't that insane? It's just one of the realities that you have to understand when you go on set. At the end of the day, you are responsible for your film. No one else really cares. They came in, they did their job, they left. They're not thinking about how the final cut turns out, but you are on the hook. So if people aren't doing their job, if they're causing too many problems, you just gotta face the reality that you have to let them go. It's not about being nice. It's about completing your film and making sure that it is the highest quality film possible. On an indie set, the only people you can't replace are the actors, and they can still cause chaos. So just be prepared and be ready. Going into production is like going into battle, which leads us into number 2. There will always be a disaster that you didn't prepare for. You can plan for months and still get blindsided. Weather can destroy your schedule. Location owners can all of a sudden just demand more money while you're already on set. Equipment owners might threaten to shut down the shoot. Actors can have to leave suddenly. Flights can get canceled. Sets can get ruined. The list goes on and on. Marc was telling me stories where on a film, he once had a camera operator who also owned the gear, and he had a very specific food request where his meat could not touch anything else. And he threatened to shut down the shoot because the meat touched lettuce. Like, this is how insane things can get. Or like on his last shoot in the Philippines, the driver showed up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday demanding more money, or they weren't going to drive the actors to set anymore or do their work anymore. And the banks were closed. Also in the Philippines, there were monsoons that were causing travel delays. They had to switch their schedule around, shoot interiors first instead of second. It was crazy. Or on another film, one of the actresses had a death in the family and had to leave before she was shot out. And so they had to compensate by creatively putting a bag over her head and shooting a kidnapping scene with a body double. Then they had to do pickups later in a totally different city. But you have to make it work no matter what happens. It's your job to make sure that the film is delivered and that it is high quality. And budgets, they can get out of control quickly. On his last shoot, Marc said that his $65,000 contingency went like that, which is a good note that on every single film, you should have a contingency. Now, in a best case scenario, it's 10%. But if you can only do 5%, you're going to feel like a king later on. Or even if you can just put as much as you can away in contingency, you're going to thank yourself later because you will need it. Which leads us to number 3. No one tells you that a huge portion of your budget isn't going to end up on screen. You take time to craft the perfect budget. You want to create the most amazing making film you can on the smallest budget possible, right? But a big portion of that budget just never ends up on the screen. SAG adds 21% pension and health to your budget. So if you have an actor that's $100,000, you're already paying $120,000 for them on top of a bond that you don't get to see until after the film is done shooting. And if you go union on your crew, IATSE adds roughly about 30% to your budget. So if your budget was $1 million, now all of a sudden it's $1,300,000 just because you went union. And if you use tax credits or rebates, cash flowing them means you automatically lose about 10% right there. Plus, you are also paying whatever interest in order to cash flow. And if you're using tax credits or rebates, which you should, cash flowing them means you lose about 10% plus interest. Cash flowing them means you lose about 10% upfront and then interest on top of that. Delivering your film costs thousands, insurance and bonds cost thousands. And if you use debt financing, you're paying interest. And people overspend on their budget all the time. Many of the times their budgets aren't put together properly, but then they don't think about all these extra costs. And so they go over budget. You have to structure a budget based on real world numbers and what your film is worth in the market. The reality is, to ensure that your film is a success and profitable, you have to start thinking about distribution up front. You have to start thinking about where you're going to sell your film. What is your film worth from the beginning? Which leads us to number 4. No one tells you that there's what you want to do and then there's what you have to do in Hollywood to get your film made and have it be a success. You get into filmmaking because you have a vision, you have a story, you want to connect with people, you want to create something incredible and amazing. But what you have to realize is that it also is a business. It is show business. And so many creatives, they just don't understand the business. But we weren't ever taught it. So, how are we supposed to know? Plus, it's not the fun creative part, but it's the part that gets films funded and sold. And if you want to have longevity in this business, if you want to build a career and make content consistently, you have to understand it. It is crucial. What that means is you're going to have to make some tough choices. If you want to cast an actor that feels perfect for the role, but their worldwide value doesn't match their fee, then you're going to have to make a hard decision. What's more important, the actor, or do you need to go and rearrange your budget to make it fit? You may want to shoot your film at a multi-million-dollar budget, but you have to think, what do I need to have in place in order for these numbers to make sense? And it may not be what you think. A-list talent doesn't always get your film greenlight. It depends on how you structure your budget and what your film is worth in the marketplace. Just because you want to make a $3 million film doesn't mean that your film is actually worth it. And I'm talking about distribution, worldwide distribution, selling your film. That's what you need to think about, is where am I going to sell my film? How am I going to sell my film? What is my film worth in the marketplace? Not just what budget did the line producer give me? Because you can have 3 different line producers give you 3 different budgets off the same script. When you have a film that doesn't make sense, when the numbers don't add up properly, that's why you get stuck in development hell. Investors and sales agents may not want to get involved because they can see that it just doesn't make sense financially. It has nothing to do with your vision or your creativity or the wonderful film you're going to make. Again, this is business. Investors are thinking about their return on investment. Distributors are thinking about where can they sell it. So it has to make sense financially as well as creatively. If your numbers don't make sense, it doesn't matter how powerful the script is, how great your vision is, how amazing the film is going to be. It might never get out of development. You need to make different choices grounded in distribution, sales value, and real market data. We go into this more in our guidebook, The Creative Producer's Filmmaking Roadmap. In it, we walk you through the 5-step system professional filmmakers use to plan, fund, and distribute profitable films consistently without sacrificing vision. If you want to build a career, not just make a film once, you need to understand not just how to make a film, but to make one that's incredible, fundable, and sellable. Go grab it in the link below. And lastly, number 5, no one tells you that the industry's extreme highs and extreme lows. Nothing in between. There is no middle ground in filmmaking. Filmmaking has lots of hard days when everything falls apart, when the investor falls out, when the actor falls out, when the location has problems, there are budget disasters, delays, hurry up and wait, right? And then nothing happens. And you've got shutdowns, reshoots, investor pressure, the list goes on. The day-to-day in filmmaking can either be really boring, really intense, really crazy, and sometimes you're wondering, why did I even do this? Nothing seems to be working. It's taking forever. That's normal. But then there are the highs. And the highs make everything worth it. That moment when you got your first investor, when you got your second investor, when the actor you've been pursuing says yes, when you finally get the budget so that you can greenlight, when you get on set and everything is just magical. You get that take and it's just pure magic. Those are the highs that keep you hooked, that keep you going forward, that keep you moving. They're the reason we all stay in the business, right? We're living for those days, for those moments. I mean, you're creating something that's never been done before. Most people could never conceive of doing this, but you have the vision, the spark, the creativity to take something that's never been made before. No one has ever seen your film and you're putting it on the screen. That is amazing. And it's something to live for. We live for those creative moments and that final moment when we see our film on the screen. That makes it all worth it. So keep your eye on the prize. And even through those hard days, just know that it's all going to be worth it in the end when your film is completed and it's being shown around the world. These are just a few of the things that no one tells you about filmmaking. There are tons more. But the main takeaway is that if you understand the reality of the film industry, truly understand it, you can navigate through it and succeed where others fail or give up. In order to have longevity in this business and build a career, you have to understand all sides of it, including the business side, so you can make profitable films and get them distributed around the world so your films can get the views that they deserve. It's easy to learn the things that we know that we don't know. But what about the things that we don't know that we don't know? That's where people get stuck. If you were like the others out there who are starting to recognize that they don't know what they don't know and they really want to know it, then check out some of our other videos. And if you didn't already, subscribe to our channel so you can get more updates of when our next videos go live. And I'll see you in the next video.